the corporate sector, leave these people. There's no money there. The real money that, look, and it's money you need. The money that you need
It's not with government.
is not with the ministry. The money you need for sports. I tell people all the time. Last night I was up watching the NBA and we shout about this NBA, March Madness, the money that they spent there is not US government that gave them. In fact, US government, it was the other day they said they were in debt that they were going to shut down. It's not that money. Your money for sports is in the marketplace. You need to get there. And I see it happen all the time. So without meaning to sell people that don't need to be sold, but Stanbic IBTC does this work for a limb. How about you take your proposal for your plan for the athletes? Go to Stanbic IBTC, they're already doing work for a limb. So it's definitely part of their CSR. You know, there are other brands that you would mention, and I don't want to mention a lot of things, but go to them. They all have, budgets for this thing. The problem is how you place your.
First panel is looking for ways to make it very, very
just always
attractive
always
to investors.
Go to it. It's a community. Sports is a community lifestyle. It's not for the ministry. So take this thing. Everybody has somebody associated with sports, in whether competitively or in their regular day life. So just take it to them and let's stop looking at ministry. How many things does ministry want to do?
All right. Thank you very much. A round of applause. I see a lot of passion here. And I hope some of us have questions that we might need to ask. I'd like to come back to you, Elizabeth. So, talking about catching them young, because this is where it all starts, from the formative stages. In schools, I have nieces. I have three beautiful nieces. So apparently, Miss Omachi has a problem with the fact that the Chrisland school, the one in Agbara, has a problem with the fact that they won't let her be part of a particular sport that she likes. So they say no, she's something. I don't know the excuse that they gave to her that she wasn't satisfied about. That she called and she was complaining about that she likes this, but they won't let her do it. So as a teacher, I'd like to ask, are there sports that because to the best of my knowledge, my niece is not sick, doesn't have any terminal illness. So are there sports that you stop kids from doing? Because like at the formative stage, they're having fun. They want to have fun. And then you say, no, you can't have this fun. This particular fun, you can't have it. And then they start, getting upset about it. Are there certain sports that, they stop certain people from having, and why?
I think even the United Nations, they've said there's freedom to sports. So I don't understand why a school would restrict students from participating in a particular sport. Two, the only reason a child should not participate in a sport is maybe for health reasons. That is the only reason and even if the child should be, how do I put it, they should explain it to the child. And maybe even if the child has a passion for it, maybe let the child know the limits. You understand, they can go, but you don't just cut them off like that. When you were even asking, I was even thinking of when we are handling children, we start them at the early stage with what we call fundamental movement skills. And fundamental movement skills are elements of different sports. So this is where you go into class and say, good morning class, today we're going to learn how to jump. Tomorrow you say we're going to learn how to run. We're going to learn how to kick. And everybody assumes they know how to do these things. But you don't. You don't know how to do it in the standard way. There's a way you run, there's a way you jump. That's where you see the difference in performance, exactly. So at that early stage, you start knowing that every child has his advantage, maybe physically, maybe you're from a family of tall family members and all, we already know you are going to have basketball advantage, or you are on the big side. We already know, okay, that's a javelin kind of child or a shot put kind of child. So you have to give them that chance. You get, and I think the root cause is these schools are not well educated to handle sports with kids. And that's why I said I'm a strong believer and an advocate of physical literacy. And in physical literacy, we are very, very, we don't joke with what they call a significant other to a child. You should be the one to encourage the child, and you should always make sure the child's motivation is intrinsic. So by making the child understand. So I don't get why they would do that to that child.
Okay, is Dr. Miriam still around?
Yes, please, I'm here.
Is she still around? Okay, so Dr. Miriam, I'm kind of tired of turning. So, Dr. Miriam, I'd like to ask a very, very important question about the cultural part of sports inclusion. It's pedestrian knowledge that some cultures are not very welcoming to sporting activities, both for male and even for even male and the females. There's some cultures and probably maybe religious practices and limits the female from doing certain sports, and that invitations to a child, a growing child, to pick a side and say, I want to do athletics, I want to do football, I want to do this. But mom and dad says, no, you can't, because in this community we are not allowed to, it's not supposed to be done. Does your initiative, does AWIS, does it take care of this issues such as this?
Well, thank you very much. I think I'll speak from a personal view because, one, I'm a Muslim woman, and I didn't come from a background where, I have parents who played sports and had an interest in sports for that matter, And where I come from, there's a lot of stigma when it comes to, Muslim women playing football, because most of the times some sports are not friendly when it comes to dress code for the Muslim women. Because if you're playing football, you find yourself with skimpy shorts, you have probably your hijab has to go off, and those are already things that limit, even hinder, any participation, freely. And I remember that when I started the football program for young people, my interest was not playing, and my interest was simply to watch these young kids play, and I would sit back. And of course, along the way, I realized that one of the things that can help us break cultural, biases and social biases is creating role models. I am sure right now in this era we have successful people, successful sportsmen and women in each community. Be it Muslim, be it some of the cultures that really don't promote or don't encourage women but girl participation in sports. So one of the key things that we can do, or that we have been doing, is use role models. I remember I had to go back to this, suggestion and play football myself, and I became a goalkeeper with a team of women called Soccer Divas, and I would still have my hijab on, and I would wear my track as a goalkeeper and play football. And I remember, of course, there was always the backlash. Oh, Mariam, how can you do this? And but eventually, because you're dressed, I was lucky that I was being a goalkeeper, because you wear long trousers. You have the option of wearing long trousers, and I still had my hijab on, and it gave so many young girls the hope that you can still play a sport, and you can still be able to do it within the confines of your religion or even your culture. So it is so important, I think, then that sports stakeholders create avenues that can allow young people to feel comfortable in you know in their cultural outfits or whatever they are that helps them to play the sport. And even sports attire manufacturers, they should be able to consider such things because, and I know Adidas has gone a long way in creating the hijab for for the Muslim sports person. But there's so many other things that can be done. Even, for example, in football, you can allow girls to wear, trousers, pants that are light enough for them to be able to run. Because at the end of the day, one of the things that also that must understand is that sport has come from a sexist bias, and people believing that the more skimpier your outfits are, the better. You'll also be able to attract the fans. But that era, we are moving away from that era. So I believe that sports stakeholders can consider that some of those things and be able to give women and young people the confidence to play a sport. If it's not for talent, it's for social development. And I think some of those things we are seeing them happen, within our society, and things are changing slowly by slowly.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doc. I'll wrap this up. But with my colleague. I will wrap this up with my colleague. She's the one who is in the best place to, not like in the best place, but at least you know. So countless times, back to back, we hear about how badly some sports representatives from Nigeria treated Barrister Bev. Please, one house, please. Thank you. So, we hear how badly some of our sports reps are being treated. If it's not on the flight, it's the hotel, it's the sports kit, it's something that happened in the bus. It's no payment or incomplete payment. It's no feeding it. There's always something. What's going on? Is this because sometimes when we hear from some sports, the ministry and sometimes investors, they make it look like they accuse us, the media. That's why I'm asking you. They accuse us, the media, of gaslighting and trying to make us look bad.
All right, so here's the thing, and this is what want to give you that interview on camera, because according to them, they could be victimized. So, and it has happened before. And so, because they are hesitant to come out with the proof, and they are the ones that suffered it the most, you can only allude to things that you can back up with evidence. Now, athletes will leave you hanging. No, athletes do that all the time. So you don't talk about rumors, you don't talk about back gist, you talk about things that have happened. Now I would say this: you were there, you saw the picture where they were pushing a train. If that's happening in transportation, what do you think? Like I say, sports cannot develop beyond the society that it is in. So if the society is struggling, sports will be struggling because sports is part of that society. The truth of the matter is ultimately, we would say, yes, we want to get, educated, exposed people into the sport leadership. But sometimes you can't send a good person into a bad situation and expect miracles, because he will only work with the tools that is available to him. Sometimes you, with all your best intentions, you go, you say, I want to do this, that. They will frustrate you from level 1 to level 5. He has a question to ask too. They will frustrate you from level 1 to level 5. So there is a struggle. So again, first thing, yes, we need good administrators. We need people that understand the sport. And number one, we need to think about taking away ministers that are political appointments. They have to have knowledge. They have to have been a part of the system. This political appointment, who is it to do political things? And that's why you see all the politicizing that happens. So first of all, we need to have that. Then we need to have sports ministry that is not... Civil service has in any country, not just Nigeria. Civil service is how do we say it? They are village people. And so when you have a sports ministry that is running on civil service, you know what you can get. So yes, we have all these things that we say, insane crimes this, insane crimes that. But if you look at your insane crimes, you hear the head of WTA worked with Microsoft, worked with this. So she came from the private sector. And she has people that have those experiences. Oh, you hear that the head of the NBA did this, that with private sector. In Nigeria, it's largely political appointment.
Thank you so much. Mine is an addendum because I've been part of the system. We are colleagues, and I'm still there. I'm here. It's my colleague as well. Well, I go into sports administration. I want to see how it is in there. But I rushed in and I was rushed out. Because what you see from outside is different from what you see from inside. I'm standing here 4 years ago. I served PRO committee and board member. I didn't have an office. Because I told them to fix my office. Until I left office, the office was not fixed. And my offense was, I was trying to open up the NOC. I have a proposal that I gave to them that, see, this is what we do as an NOC. But they said, where is this small boy coming from? He doesn't even know anything. But the issue is, back to what he's saying. The Olympics is next year. Olympics has been to Nigeria that you have to pay for your accommodation in 2022. How can the ministry, if you don't have a sponsor, how can the ministry write to the president that in 2024 he wants to pay for accommodation for athletes for 2024 and 2022? How do you do the budgetary allocation? This is a problem we have. Administration, like you said, we have to bring people that knows the business into the terrain. Anytime I see Kichobi, you understand, I always drop my heart. She was pulling the sports industry policy, whatever, what have you. One day I saw my name, I said, my name gets here, and I said, my friend, you said something the other day, we need to kick chairs, you know. You understand? So, we need people like him, like her rather. Sometimes ago, I flew private jet to Kwara. Though she's still owing me, I'll collect money today. Jokes apart. You understand? I flew private jet to, yes, she was the one behind Riho coming to Ilorin. We need people like her, not because she's seated. These are the people that have the passion. You are here, he is here. But when they say it's politics, she's here elsewhere. She's there elsewhere. When they bring in their politics. So how do you do it? Then we don't even lower. We went to the Olympics. We have somebody that even the whole Africa was looking at, that he will be number one. But he lost out on the first round. Even the Egyptian standing next to me said, no, you can't lose, it's not possible. But he lost because he told us that he can't work with the coach giving to him. That's education. He doesn't have it. So we need to talk to ourselves. Maybe we should just lock ourselves into one room. Anyone that wants to survive, survives. Anyone that wants to survive, let it go. No, jokes apart, because it's very, very painful. We are talking sport now and development because we have so much money to gain from sport. So much money. It's raw. We have not just started it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Good morning. Are we still in one? Yes. Femi, simply because you called me, I think I'm on the next panel, so I'll just say a couple of words. I always ask people, that to let me know, my first point of conversation when I meet somebody is, what is the value of an Olympic medal?
What is the value of an Olympic medal?
No one has been able to answer that question. And so, I say this with all sense of responsibility. I actually do not care about the Olympics. I do not care about the World Cup. I do not care about the Commonwealth Games. I don't care about World Championships. Because you see, we do not have an ecosystem that has been developed for us to consume sports locally. So focus for some of us is to build the ecosystem to consume sports locally. We have focused too much on the participation side of sport in this country. And so some of us have decided to flip that pyramid that we have put our elite athletes up there and left the money that is down there on the table. The money is actually me and you and everybody in this room playing sport. Being able to play sports. The money is not in the 1,000 people go abroad and play. There's no money there. The money is taking 100 naira every day from 60 million Nigerian people. So what do we do? So, every time I come, the problem is always, and they didn't pay allowance and they didn't pay salary. I actually don't care. Oh, the ministry didn't do this. We need, I listen to you, we need somebody's system. No, you need a businessman.
Yes.
I would never put a sports minister. The practice of sport and the business of sport are two different things.
Yes.
It's like hospitals. It's like hospitals. It's like hospitals. Many hospitals fail because the doctor wants to be the hospital administrator. Abroad, the hospital administrator is not a practicing doctor.
All right, so let me correct that.
Let me finish.
Correct that because I didn't. When I said that,
let me finish. So, what we need in sport today is business people who will see the potentials and put their money behind the investment. I heard say let's package something to take corporate organizations. Investment is what is going to grow sport, not sponsorship. Invest, and that's why next panel we're going to talk about investment, because that's what we need. We do not need sponsorship. So I just let's go there. Just correct a couple of
yeah. All right, so let me correct what I said. When I said we need somebody in the system, I didn't mean we needed athletes. I'm one of those people that know that athletes don't do things for people, which is why my examples were that the WTA president had worked in Microsoft. You know, she understands business. She's grown Nike, so she knows what she's talking about. So when I said I need someone that is in the system, I didn't mean in the system like you play an athlete. Athletes don't. I mean, even when you tell them that you are a money maker, they don't even understand it, and they even want the money that they can eat now. And we tell them that we have to build you as a brand, so that when you retire, you will still be eating. Roger Federer is eating till tomorrow. Hasn't played tennis in over 2 years. So that's what I meant. Somebody in the system. I didn't mean an athlete, but the system is not just athletes. That's the problem. The system is marketing. The system is development. So we all just think about the system as athletes. And that's why I said the first thing that needs to change is perception of sport. So what is perception of sport? So what is sport? Is sport you again think sport competition. Sport is not the competition.
Okay.
Sport is what you do every day.
A round of applause, everyone. I mean, don't we just love a heated conference?
Only happens to women. Men don't know. Again, okay. Next sports minister has to be a woman.
It's
Let's
good.
try.
It's good. I'll ask. I'll ask Mr. Paul one more question, and then we get to the next panel because everything that we've had exchange about here, Madam, we sat here so that we could pave the way for you because your panel is trying to make about we were not being specific about any sport that was okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I love that you care about that because you didn't seem to care about a lot of things. So, but I'm happy that you cared about that. But I care a lot about the because the mental part of sports. Yeah. So final question for you, Mr. Paul, because of the special sports people. How do you get them in? Do you scout? Do you create awareness? How do you get new special sports people? How does a mother to an autistic person know that there's a competition for autism people or something? How do you get them in? Because it's special.
Tutor is to expose those who is playing the game well to those who are beggars in their community to see if this person can do it, have the energy, I can do even better than him. So when you don't take some of these sports to them, they don't even see, they don't even know about it. I'm telling you, some people today, even some people in this room might not know that there's something called amputee football because they've not watched them play. I blame them. You understand? So courage. Yeah, that's part of the brand development we are talking about.
Strategies.
Exactly. The special egos have handles in all the social medias now. We're also developing the website too. So with that, people can see that if I can see this guy play, because some of them too, one of the problems is using the wrong clutches, and then when you use it and just you want to abandon it and run away. When you are informed, when you see them closer to you, you understand. So now you're able to join. And again, another benefit is most of them cannot actually practice in isolation because you can't start cutting people's legs to clear amputee. So if I come to a community and you see just one person, so that's why when you go to them, you encourage them to train with the able bodies, you understand, as much as they can. Then if we be able to succeed in developing the foundation that will take care of their work, live, play, live, work, and play, they can be able to bring them together. Because the truth is, if they are not competing with somebody, they can't know their performance level and they cannot improve.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Like you said, World Health Organization, there's freedom in sports. And that was why I asked you about if there is any sport that anybody is being asked not to do. But now we know that there's freedom in sports. I'm hoping that by the end of this conference today, tomorrow, we would have been able to solve any sport whatsoever, any sporting activity that is facing some sort of victimization or segregation, or say this person shouldn't do that. I'm sure we have lots of experts in the house from the next panel to tomorrow's panel, but I hope we all agree that Tega, Paul, Elizabeth, Dr. Miriam has done a great job to this first panel. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Please, who wants to please come back on stage? We'll be having a quick photo section, after which we'll be having a presentation of an award. Thank you. Please, are you not joining? Please just wait. One of our partners will be on stage. Thank you very much. We really do appreciate. Please, Noye, please come forward, okay, with your award. Thank you.
Sponsors of this event. He's the CEO, and trust me, he does a lot to support the sports ecosystem. This person here, if you're in the sports industry, you need to come talk to them. They do so much, from the amputees, grassroots academies. The value of what they do is unquantifiable, because trust me, there is a commercial value to every jersey printed. It's not free. It doesn't just materialize from the sky. So this man here, you're doing a lot. So I want to say a big thank you. Amaka over there, working with all the grassroots clubs. Thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll be having a 10 minutes break to enable persons network, and equally we'll be having just a photo section downstairs. You can snap, and we want everyone to please reconvene after 10 minutes for the next section. Thank you, everyone.
Please, another 5 minutes added networking session. Let us go downstairs to the carpet.
I just want to add to that and ask this question. You should give a way. Give a way during the next section.
During this time, all the sessions. Still not talk to her about it. I don't know where she is.
Please, let's be occupying the front seat now. We are starting the next session. Okay, Mr. Moyo, you can come for your gift now. Please, let's move forward so that we start the next session. Mr. Paul is giving Mr. Moyo Maku. It's a Nigeria, you know, we are all pro-Nigeria. It's proudly endorsed by NFF. So he's got himself a Nigeria t-shirt. Thank you for coming, Mr. Moyo. Thank you for being part of this event. We appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, the next session, please. Can we please move to the front row so that we can give ourselves a beautiful... Please, let's, if you have taken your breakfast, I mean your tea break, please can we move? Let's use the front seat. Making sports more attractive to investors. Of course. We want sports to be very endearing to people now. We want people to put money into sport. We want people to see sport as a viable business. And we have our panels. These are wonderful, talented persons, resource in this aspect of business, sport business. Okay, making sport more attractive to investors. We start now. We have both in-house and hybrid resource assessment. Okay, so I have on my list Miss Nkechi Obi. Please can you come forward now? I will give her a round of applause. Yes. Let's be moving to the front row now. Please, we start next session. Thank you so very much. Welcome, madam. We have Mr. Olabisi Makodola. Let's move to the front row. Let's give us a project. This is fire. Yeah, I'm going to be so much for us.
Okay, hi everyone, good morning. Please, tea break is over. If you kindly move and we'll get started with the next panel. I don't know if Mr. Guillermo is online. Yes, okay, great. So we can get started. Hi everyone again, my name is Precious and I lead partnerships and community at Founder Institute Lagos, where I preside as Lorito, and most of our work is helping launch early stage startups in Lagos. I have here this amazing panel with me. I will start with Miss Nkechi Obi. Sorry, Miss Nkechi Obi, and she was in charge of the Team Nigeria project designed to harness private and public sector funding for the training and participation of Nigeria's athletes at international multi-sport events, such as the Olympics, the Commonwealth, and the All African Games.
She has over the past 30 years, she has also promoted capacity development in sport administration as a key component of sport development, and has acted as a consultant on development of bespoke content and projects to government agencies such as the Federal Ministry of Sport, the Nigerian Police Force, the Nigerian Army, and a host of all other agencies. Can we give a round of applause for Ms. Nkechi? Thank you very much. And next on the panel, we have Mr. Olabisi Mokonjuola, who is an avid sportsman and an administrator. BC, as he loves to be called, has been a mainstay in the dispute resolution practice of Olaniwon Ajayi, which is a top-tier commercial law firm in Lagos, Nigeria. Over the past 15 years, his fingerprints can be found in every brief, every mandate, and every successful judgment or award obtained from the Superior Court of Record in Nigeria. And lastly, can we have a round of applause for Mr. Olabisi? Thank you for joining us this morning. And lastly, we have Mr. Guilherme von Kopper, who is joining us virtually. And Mr. Guilherme is the CEO of Berlin Sports and recently a FIFA-accredited football agent. He's also a lawyer with experience. He's also a lawyer with experience cutting across civil law, criminal law, sports law, and more. He's currently the CEO of Berlin Sports, which is a bridge for talents, and he has worked with clubs around the world for years. Thank you so much to all our panelists who will be joining us. And the topic for this panel, what we'll be talking about is making sports more attractive to investors. And as someone who has worked with startups and know what goes behind the scene when it comes to making investments and sourcing for funds for any venture, I know there's a lot of attention or a lot of attraction towards Africa. We've been seeing the news lately. A lot of funding, venture funding has been coming into Africa across various sectors. The fintech sector, the logistics, e-commerce, a lot of these sectors have been successfully raising funds over the years. But still yet, sports seems to still be left behind. And Ms. Nkechi, I will ask you this question. What are the key factors, in your opinion, that you think will make sports an attractive investment opportunity for potential investors?
Answering that question us to go back a little. You have to ask yourself why it hasn't been an attractive investment in the first start. We've thought in 6 years, I don't know, can you all hear me? Or I just keep the mic, my voice projects, so I can because it's crackling. So over the past 60 plus years, what Nigeria has been doing is essentially to focus on participation. What these days they call the soft power of sports. Nothing wrong with the soft power of sports. One house, please. Nothing wrong with the soft power of sports. It is what makes the world sit up and take a look at you. But you have to marry that soft power with hard power. Hard power is the 80% part of sport that you don't see, but that's what makes the soft power work. You know, I describe most industries, but particularly with sport, I like to describe sport like an iceberg. You see only 20% of an iceberg above the water, which is why the Titanic crashed. He didn't see that 80% that was below water. So the 80%, the 20% you see for sport is that part you sit in your house, hold your remote control, and you are pressing. So you are watching EPL, you are watching La Liga, you are watching ATP 1000, you are watching basketball and all of that. That's end product. For you to get that end product, you have to put money in the 80% you do not see. So that 80% you do not see is the infrastructure, that's the stadiums, the training, the merchandising, all the value chain components that makes their 20% work. The problem with us in Nigeria is that we have not invested in that 80%. So we keep thinking that the 20% will work. We are a large country. Anyhow, as I tell people, anyhow, 22 people will suit up if we go to work. We will find 22 people that will sit up and appear at the World Cup or at the under-17. We do not need to put any effort. Whether we will win anything is a different kettle of fish. But that we will find people, it is not in any doubt. We are large enough to find 22. The thing is, are we finding the right 22? The thing is, do we have that pipeline? Have we invested in that 80% that will guarantee that we will always turn out athletes? We were speaking about the last session, they were speaking about the Olympics. Kenya has sent the same number of athletes that we have sent in 68 years to the Olympics. The same number. They compete in only, before they used to compete in 2 sports. Now is 1. They used to compete in boxing and athletics. Now is 1. Only athletics. Technically, Kenya's Olympics starts from the 2nd week. Same thing with they don't. Since 1972 Olympics, is it 72 Munich, Kenya has steeplechase every Olympics. So beginning next year now, Kenya will write steeplechase. There was a time they won gold, silver, bronze. Yes. Kenya's investment in athletics has seen them build 2 new cities, Eldoret and Iten. New cities completely from the earnings of Kenyan athletes. Can we point, our football players have been going all over, can we point to one investment that has been made to give back so that you can be sure that footballers will be coming out? Kenya, when the IAAF, which is World Athletics today, decided to endorse 7 high performance centers globally, Kenya got 2. We don't have any. That's what you need to do. What those 2 high performance centers did was to attract investment. Property rates in Eldoret are higher than in other parts of Kenya. It's an investment. So back to your question, what do we need to do? We need to be intentional. What is our focus? Is it to build an ecosystem? By the way, Kenya has an ecosystem. There are 20,000 training centers. I'm using Kenya as an example because it's not football. So that we don't say that it's football. I'm using Kenya as an example. It's not football, it's athletics. And they are dominating. There are 20,000 training centers for athletics in Kenya. Mid-size, grassroots, but there are 20,000. You cannot win a long distance medal, any athlete, globally, if you have not trained in Kenya. Go ask Mo Farah. When he finished, he still went to Kenya to train. You can't. So these are all parameters you use.
Do we have data gathering in Nigeria? Do we know the number of persons that do sports? Do you know the sports that they do? By the way, sports is not a sport. Sport is business. And until we begin to see sports as business and not as a recreation, who says that somebody cannot pay you for jogging every morning when you wake up in your house? All of us wake up in the morning and go out on an estate. Who says you cannot get a sponsor to wear their colors while you're working out every morning you wake up? For you, you are trying to keep fit. But for your investor, business, as you run around your estate, you are advertising some unnecessary products. We need data to achieve things like that. We need technocrats. During tea break, I was discussing with certain person, and I said to them that forget it, we have talent in Nigeria, whether here or in diaspora. So our problem is not talent. But when we bring these talents together, are we able to get the best of them? By the way, I do every sport except for physical sports. So before the last Olympics, Nigeria beat the US in basketball, beat Argentina in basketball, and the whole world was looking out to see what we do at the Olympics. But Olympics came and we were messed up. Because we understood that perhaps the coach did not get to train with the team, the coach was put in a different place, the players didn't have resources. So those are the kind of things that deter investors from coming into sports. Again, we have an enabling environment. So I was excited when Shola bought into sporting in Lagos. He's doing a lot, but despite all of the buzz, every Sunday, Onikon is half empty. But that's our pride in terms of the way football administration or the way sports should be run. So we need technocrats to man all of these spaces. We need Southampton in the last in the Premiership today, right? But every time they play, the stadium is full. People are not coming to watch and enjoy themselves. They are coming to make money. So for me, sports is beyond a physical exercise. As she says, we need a change, but we then need to begin to identify those things that we need to change. When we begin to identify those things that we need to change, I can tell us that Nigeria will be the best because we have the talents, whether here or in the diaspora.
Thank you very much, Mr. BC. Thank you. I love the fact that you brought up Shola, which leads me to my next question, because coincidentally last week I watched one of Sporting Lagos football match, and it was a nice experience. And we know recently also support a club in the Danish Football League. And recently there's just been this increase or this surge in sports franchises. We also see Ryan Reynolds, who bought a football club in Wales, I think, Wrexham FC. And my next question will be to Mr. Guilherme. And I just want to ask, with the surge in sports franchises, what are some of the reasons behind this trend, and how can investors capitalize on it?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Perfect. I didn't understand so much the question. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I said we've witnessed lately this surge or increase in sports franchises and technocrats and more people buying, for example, buying football clubs and getting into the business of sports. So what are some of the reasons behind this trend, and how can investors capitalize on it?
Thank you so much. First of all, let me just tell that it's a major pleasure to be here. I'm really sorry not to be with you in person, so I hope that we can do it soon. I'm used to travel a lot throughout Africa, so I'm always jealous when I see you there and I'm here in Portugal. But hopefully I'll be able to do it soon and be with you also in person. I think that's a really good question. And I would like, if possible, to share here a small presentation that I did exactly on that topic. because one of the major questions worldwide right now regarding investment is exactly what are the reasons to buy, for example, a football club right now. And let me share just quickly with you here some thoughts exactly regarding that question. So I hope everyone can see the presentation.
Yes, we can.
But
We can see.
perfect. Let me just here quickly slideshow. Exactly. So we were recently also discussing this topic in the Middle East. So that's why also I tried to bring some thoughts regarding this. We have done a presentation recently regarding purchasing a football club and what are the complications that usually can come during this process, and exactly how an independent consultancy or a law office can help in these matters. I will pass forward a little bit the presentation of our company, but just to let you know, we have been in the business of sports for many years. We have three sides of the business. We have in the Berlin Sports Group more the side of sports law, where we are advising around 1,000 clubs all over the world, a lot of first and second league clubs in all 5 continents and also in Africa. So we are representing also a lot of clubs legally with the proceedings concerning FIFA, concerning the Court of Clubs in several African countries. And as you can see here, we represent several first league clubs around the globe in some of the major leagues. But besides having the parts of the sports law firm, we also have the part of the agency, Burn Sports Bridge for Talents, when we do intermediation, and the part of investment, which is called Burn Sports Consulting. And in the investment part, it's crazy to see how the stakeholders all around the world are so interested in investing in sports. And not only investing in sports, for example, in Europe, in some of the major football clubs, but also trying to find the talent before. So, for example, in Africa, investing in academies and investing more and more in clubs in all continents, but Africa, for example, more and more football clubs, companies, they want also to have their share and their position in the continent. But I would like to start just quickly by saying that I think that the major reason why people like to invest so much in sports is, first of all, because of the passion involved in it. And I would say that this has a positive aspect and a negative aspect. The positive aspect of this is that actually, when there is so much passion, we know that sports and football specifically, it's an industry that will always exist because people are passionate, because people see this as a potential future for their families, for the kids, for entrepreneurs, for people that actually believe that sports is global. And this is exactly what we believe in Berman Sports. So having this passion always make sure this is an industry worth to invest. On the same hand, sometimes when you have emotions into it, it's more difficult to have some rational decisions. And that's why it's important always to keep the clarity. But I would say, when you look into our presentation, that the club investment usually is based on some reasons. First of all, stopped. The strategic business decisions. So if, for example, you have an agency or you work with players, it's really interesting the possibility of having a club and having the possibility to enhance your assets. Second of all, if you have further businesses that can connect and be related to sports or to football, for example, having a real estate business, having a multi-club ownership, these are always strategic reasons that can help you or want you actually be also in a football club. Then, of course, the passion for football, the passion for the game, and also the business behind it, which means transfer fees, of course, because like we know right now, the fees on football players are increasing. The demand for football players, for example, even African players, if we think about it, more and more the African players are being sold for more money. The clubs in Africa are being able finally to tell the European clubs that if they want to bring the best talents, they actually also need to pay. You don't only need to pay big amounts for the players in Argentina or in Brazil traditionally, but first of all, there was the idea of the African players coming, you'll see what they could do, and then they would increase their value. But more and more, they have a value from the start because we, for example, believe that the next big player, the next typical big player of football is African because of the scouting that is getting better and better in the continent, because of the increase, of course, of the population. So everything connected, the player of the future is African. So if you think about having a club, whether in Africa, whether in Europe, of course, the transfer fees are a big investment decision. Then, of course, the TV rights. I'm going to give you the example of Portugal. We are doing exactly how it was done in Spain. And instead of the clubs individually negotiating the TV rights, right now it will be mandatory that it's negotiated collectively in order to bring more competition within the football clubs, like they do in the Premier League for many years. That's why it's so competitive. So if a big club in Portugal, for example, now will be able to have to divide that amount of the TV rights almost equally with the other clubs, this will increase the competition of our football. And of course, grow the value of the club. Then you have, unfortunately, and we all know also, further reasons. Political reasons and sometimes illegal activities. And this is where I think that everyone that is investing in sport and everyone that is open to receive investment, they need to make a really good due diligence of who you are dealing with. Because it's really important to understand that it's good to get good funds for the investment, but more and more, the sponsors, the brands, and the investors, they are really precise on where they want to invest. They don't want to be connected with a company or with a football club that has been in the past, for example, connected to betting, to money laundering, to lack of transparency in the types of negotiations that they do. So the brands more and more they want to be connected to players that don't only they give them the benefit economically, but also they give them this image of being someone that they can trust. So for example, even for a company, imagine like Nike, that Nike, for example, they would like to invest and have 2 or 3 players that or 2 or 3 football clubs that they believe that can access many markets. But if you think that one of the clubs or the players can be a bad face for their brand, maybe they will think twice. So these are always decisions that must be done. Who you want to invest in yourself and where do you want to invest also have to be deeply analyzed, not only the financial side, but also on this transparency side. In the club side, usually the reasons for a club to sell, and in the past we have been representing several investors that bought clubs worldwide, and usually for the clubs to sell, the critical financial situation of the club, when they have debts, when they have a problem in their budget, is one of the reasons that wants them to attract investors. The second of them, of course, is if the owners or if the city, they want to have higher sporting ambitions, reach a certain level in football, have their players being showcased, winning titles, being a reference. This is why they are also open to investment in most of the times. But I would like to give you also a practical perspective from our work throughout the years of where usually these complications might come. The problem is sometimes the interests of investors and of the club owners, they are basically connected, and sometimes we need to find ways of solving it. Because usually the club, they want to try to appear as attractive as possible. And when we talk about football clubs, we can talk about also clubs in general, and even in sports businesses in general. The companies, the clubs, they try to appear attractive, so they tend not to reveal usually the full financial details. And this is one of the problems. So that's why usually as an investor, we really have good due diligence and think also think rationally and not emotionally when we think about sports. Then of course the club will try to hide some of the internal conflicts that might be regarding the structures of power, regarding different groups within the club, problems with social, etc. And then, of course, we ask the prices, because football tends sometimes to oversell a little bit in terms of an amount. So, as an investor perspective, you really need to combine this and think realistically what your investment can be. And of course, sometimes in some countries there are a lack of openness to people from certain countries, depending on the language, the culture, the religion. It's a shame that still sometimes in this period of time where we are more global, where we want to be more respectful, even sometimes people try to value the other people based on their religion, their culture, their language, their race. That's really important, but sometimes we have to have this perception that we need to change the perceptions of people and understand that in certain places it's difficult to get independence. On the investor side, sometimes they come with an attitude of conqueror, of wanting to change everything, of wanting to change all the approaches. And sometimes this is not good. You need to know where you are going, where you are investing, and how to make the best out of the actives that already exist over there. And on the club side, you need to look and try to understand what the real intentions of the investors are. So just to finalize really quickly my intervention regarding the football clubs, which I think I chose this example also because I think it's really, you can extrapolate a lot of ideas here in investing in general in sports. It's really important to have a good independent consultancy, doing a proper due diligence of the club and the investment group and your investment, leading all the negotiation and the purchasing process in a good way and with good people involved, having a good knowledge of the club language, the respective country, the values of the company or the club you are buying, and make sure you have a lot of good legal expertise and you rely on good local people to represent the people in the club or in the country. Having attention into confidentiality, NDAs to protect both parties, this is also really important. But what I would really like to highlight to you is that in my idea and in what I do think is that investing in sports is more and more and more attractive, and people just need to make sure to combine really well the rationality that must be behind it and the emotion on investing on someone that can really connect people, that can really push people into a more global society, giving opportunities to everyone. And this is one of the most important things. That's why we are here. It's hypocritical to say that people also are not in sports or in football to be able to make a business out of themselves. But if you are actually also a good company and good people, you want to see your work being reflected in the others, in the lives of the players, of the kids, of the families, of the people that you work with, and actually having a reputation that you are pushing football, pushing sport. The business into a more global way and make sure that everyone can actually benefit from it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Guilherme. He definitely brought a gun to a night fight. So we'll move on to the next question, and this is for you, Mr. Olabisi. And I know when we talk of sports, especially as a Nigerian and mostly Nigerians, our default thought is to football. And when we mention sports, everyone is just thinking of football. So there are still different types of sports, and emerging sports and niche markets present unique investment opportunities. Now, how do you think investors can identify and evaluate potential growth areas within the sports industry?
Okay, thank you. In terms of identifying potential growth areas, what every investor wants is his returns. And one of the things that will guarantee returns is the numbers in terms of the consumption. And so, from the perspective of an investor, you're looking at where are the numbers going to come from. So I want to look at a sport where I'm sure that the consumers of that sport will give me the numbers that will ultimately make me to recoup my investments. The other point is, how easy is it to even recoup your investments? It's easy to get money in, but to take your money out of the country, and that's for those who import capital. To get your money out of Nigeria, it's an equivalent task. I mean, sometimes even the bankers go to the black market to source for forex. So that is one of the problem, or one of the things that play in the mind of the potential investors. The other point is the regulatory landscape. I see people that Nigeria is one of the most overlawed countries in the world. But despite all of the laws that we have, nothing is working. And so it's not so much about laws, it's not so much about policies, but it's about implementation of the few policies and the few laws that we have. So coming to create a new law or to create a new policy would not solve it for me. It's for us to look at what we have at the moment and see how we can tweak what we have and make the best out of it. The last point is this. For investors, you don't necessarily have to believe in that sport. And one sport that is making the waves these days is mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts. And you find that you have Lagosians who are on the streets burning their energy, on other things. Those energies can be converted to sports like mixed martial arts. It's an upcoming, it's an emerging area. South Africa saw the queue, they've taken the queue. South Africa is building what is now called AFC, similar to what you have, which is UFC. And South Africa is doing well with that. We are still trying to get there, but for an investor, you want to spot such potentials. And because of the numbers we have in Nigeria, and that is why the telecom companies and those companies in that space are doing very, very well, because Nigeria has the numbers. So for us, it's for us to identify that sport that has huge followership, invest in that sport, and make sure that it's a sport that it's not overburdened. So football is overburdened, but we keep going back to football, and you can't run away from football. But I've always said that if you have a good package, you will attract the best of investors. And football is one package that we have, but we're not using it very, very well. And until we begin to invest more in our football, we'll remain where we are.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so here's my view. And I've listened to him, I've listened to Olabisi. And I think that everybody, as usual, we approach this problem of sports in Nigeria from a top-line perspective. So Graham is operating in what we would call a mature market. He's told us how you can invest, what the decision to invest in a club, a football club, what drives it, but he has not told us about the incentives from the several departments in that country that made it possible for an investor to take the decision in the first instance. So many things have been taken for granted in his presentation. The tax issues, if you have, the laws, the duty, probably get duty waivers in certain instances. Monies that come in, what if the companies make the clubs are making a loss, is carrying loss forward? What the incentives that make it possible to operate, to have seamless investment decisions is not told us yet. So there's an assumption that this is a market that can that you can just come in and buy a football club. Using those parameters, it is not. That's the first cold water that gets pushed on you. Then Olabisi says the same thing about, also an assumption that ceteris is paribus. In Nigeria, ceteris is not paribus. So it is not paribus because this is not an industry that exists. And I'll tell you why. Right now, all want sports to work, but nobody is prepared to do the work. For 10 years, some people have done the work. The policy we had before was for sport for participation. From 2016, the NESG said sport had to be business. But it is not math. Everybody comes everywhere I was going before 2016. Sports is business. How is it business? Nobody could tell us. So for a period of 7 years, this institution went after putting in place what needs to happen so that the Graham can come into Nigeria and assume the things that he has assumed in his country. As I speak to you right now, after the passage of the policy in November, incidentally, if you have not read the National Sports Industry Policy 2022 to 2026, please go and read it. It's 100% business document. But there was another step that needed to happen. And that step is being taken as we speak. The incentives to ensure that the investor that Olabisi wants to bring his money in so that he can take it out, to make it possible for him to take it out. And some of the propositions, I'm glad maybe possibly the next session where Dr. Ikenna, who is the facilitator of the policy commission that deals with sports at the NESG, will be speaking of policy making. Some of the incentives include, it has been recognized that there will be losses because we are not a mature industry. We don't even exist. We are 0.01% contribution to the GDP of this country. Sports is 0.01%. And we are aiming in the next 5 years to be 1 to 1.5%. And in the next 10 years, 2%. It's possible, but you have to put the foundation. What am I saying here? We ignore the foundations we must set. And I'm saying here, we're asking for import duty and VAT waivers because we recognize that if you ask every child to play sport in this country, they must come to the school with shirt, shorts, boots, and a ball. No factory makes ball in Nigeria. And there are 40 million school children. So all of a sudden, you have to go to CBN, apply for FS. China factory will be churning instead of Aba to set up something. So what do we do to encourage Aba to make 40 million balls? We had to put all of that there in pioneer status, ensuring that an investor, because forget, Graham has told you, an investor will look at the risk. An investor wants to know that if I bring in $100 million, I must be able to take $100 million out. So I always tell people at fora like this, please let us not assume that we're a mature market. We are an emerging market. We've been playing sport for 70 years, but we're an emerging market as far as sports business is concerned. And now you must make up your mind, as many of you as are here, to join the struggle to lay the foundation. Sports will only be implemented at state level. Many of us come and speak about federal government. What we're asking the federal government to do in terms of incentive is the only role they have. The federal government is not going to build infrastructure. The states are not even going to build it. It will be you and I that will build those things. But for us to build it, we must, Olabisi has said, we must have data. So the states must begin to gather data. Implementation is at state level. Investment will go to states. It will not go to federal government. Because the federal government does not own land. Unfortunately for us, sports is more capital intensive than music and entertainment. Music, I don't enter one studio, away from microphone, I have song. Then the next day I go on social media. Every one of you here, if I beg you to share it, before long I will go viral. The next thing I will Go and cut one video. Probably spend 10 million. I cut one video. Sim, I am a hit. Now life for sports, I must start at the age of 5, as Elizabeth has told us. Then coach will follow me. Then I must go to a facility. Then I must do this. Then I will be coming. I'll be growing. 12 years. If you are 5, it will take 12 years for you to see anything. That's heavy duty investment. So sports is not like creatives. Sports requires facilities. We must build them. Sports requires kitting and equipment. We must have it. Sports requires coaches. We must have it. Sports requires money. It must be there. Sports requires the entire gamut of the value chain. Sports requires the community. It requires a cycle of investment. For that investment to happen, you require incentives. The federal government will deliver bulk of incentives, but you must fight for it. We've been fighting for these incentives for nearly 6 months. We will probably get it. We are hoping before this government exits in the next 2 weeks, because the work has been done. If it's not passed, we still must continue. It could take a year. Of course, that doesn't mean we are waiting. So the summary of what I'm saying is that investment decisions must be weighed against the your status, and the state of sports development or sports business or sports industry that you are. Right now, we are virgin territory. And it behoves all of us to understand that and work towards it.
Thank you very much, Fast. That was a really great insight. And I know data keeps coming up. It was mentioned in the last panel. It's been mentioned now again, and it keeps coming up. And my brother is a data analyst, and he has this interest in sports analysis, and it's something he's been reading about, talking about, and now hearing it from you, I finally think to understand this perspective. And what role do you think data will play in driving more investments into the sports industry in Nigeria? BC, do you want to help us with that?
It's the fundamental, and let's start from the basics. So there is the current under-17 World Cup going on. Ideally, it's a punch of a button. We should be able to, from your own living room, ascertain the status of the ages of all of those players, and not have to go to MIR. In the earlier panel, we spoke about child sports competition. You log in details of the winners. So I want to look for the fastest 100-meter runner in my local government. And for me as a businessman, I want to make money. I go and key into that boy who is 3 years, who is 10 years old in year 5 in his secondary school. I started to nurture him, I started to sponsor him, I started to grow with him. Toby Amusan was discovered like that when in Jabode, when some teachers said, look, but you are not doing well as an academician. Let's invest in your sports. That is what data does for you. And you can't go wrong with data. Data and technology is one of the things we'll talk about. Data and technology, when put together, my brother here is developing an app, and I think you should talk to him. It helps to invest. It helps you for whether as a player or as an investor. It helps you to make up your mind. The reasons why the so-called developed countries are doing better than us is because they have the data to go back to. And for me, once we begin to and that's why I said that there are some low-hanging fruit. So let's record things ourselves. Let's record things ourselves. You can never go wrong with your data. Your data helps you to plan. Your data even helps you to make investment decisions. And that is why you can never go wrong with data. Data and technology, when put together, will get you to what I like to call El Dorado.
Let me use an example to buttress the data. It's an example, local example here, and it has to do with football. Let me tell you why the concentration is on football. Football is expected to be the tide that will raise all the other sports boats. Football has failed to be that tide, but it's beginning to understand, especially at grassroots level. So let me use the example at grassroots level. The last 10 years, I've more or less managed the third tier of our league system. Many of you might not have heard about it, but if you go, take your phones now and Google NLO, you'll be able to watch, they are playing right now, you'll be able to watch a few matches on YouTube. NLO has streamed more matches than the MPFL has this season. And they started streaming their own matches. But do you know why? Because we spent 10 years building the NLO. I joined the NLO in 2013 when they came. They were under 100 clubs playing across 3 divisions. There are less than 8,000 players. 10 years later, the NLO is, as at the end of 2022, there were 344 clubs. There were 22,000 players and coaches. We were averaging about 8 million stadium audience across our matches, and we were playing. COVID reduced our matches. Because of COVID, we had to be playing stadium leagues. Before, we used to play in groups that used to go home and away. But COVID made us, first we didn't play that 2020, then in 2021 we played. Last year we played by stadium leagues. The last stadium league is being played right now. What do we mean by stadium leagues? Groups gather in one place and play in that stadium. So we're playing in 37 stadiums across the country now. NLO is in every state. So I've got 8 million people coming into our matches. This season, we are 420 clubs. So at the end of a decade, we were 344. At the end of a decade, we were 22,000 players. We were 8 million, and 15 billion naira was spent by clubs in the NLO. People didn't know that amount of money was being spent because the NLO clubs are owned by people like you. 95% of the clubs in the NLO are privately owned. So our season opener was one season was Shekarau Babes versus Woodhill FC. I'm sure you don't know who those are. But it was full house. About 8,000 people showed up in Sani Abacha Stadium. What am I trying to say? It's data. Because of that data, for the first time, 3 serious brands have partnered with the NLO this year. And going forward, the NLO is going to get their TV rights sorted out even before the MPFL. Because the NLO gives a sponsor 36 states plus the FCT. So any sponsor that wants to do a national campaign, grassroots, the NLO reaches a target audience of 100 million people in communities. Our COO, if you tell him your community, he will tell you the club that plays in your community. It's data. So it took 10 years for us to be and then the NLO made up its mind to be consistent. So if they say they are starting the league March 7, on March 7, the first match will be played. If they say they are ending October 15, the last match is played, and they were consistent for 7 years. Today they are reaping the fruits. So data, calendar, consistency, the investment will come. Now the NLO is the target of real estate development in terms of stadiums because they can show how many people are coming to their stadiums. If it's 2,000, if it's 3,000, an investor can punch his calculator and say every week 2,000 people will come. That's the role of data. Every sport must be able to tell us how many people are playing your sport at a mature level, a professional level. Every sport must be able to tell us their calendar. I'm starting January. I have 20 championships every year. These championships are played in this place, this place, this place. I have 5,000 people come through my gates for every championship. So from 20 and 100,000 people every year. I have 20,000 players. It does not matter your sport. once you can show, you will get somebody interested in your sport. So data is the most critical element in sports.
That point on data, what data then does is that when you then write your sponsorship letters asking banks and what have you for monies, because you have programmed your events January to December, and you write them the September before the January, they're able to say, okay, you have an event in June, I will support your June event, and so take the money for that June event. But not when you write them in June asking for money for a July event. Nobody will listen to you. So when you say that, oh, corporate organizations are not sponsoring, it's because you don't have a program that they can buy into. It's because people don't put it that way. I tell my colleagues in our law forum that when you are asking someone to sponsor you in an event, you must demonstrate that your product is bankable. I must demonstrate that you have your timeline. So this is what you tend to get when you sponsor me. And this is the event I have. And so come and sponsor my July event, but you are writing me in October before. But not come and sponsor my July event and writing me in June. That is where we get it wrong most times. And data helps us to clarify all of these things. From an investor perspective, those are the kind of things they want to see. And it makes them know, oh, this is a brand that is thinking. Let me go with this person. So oftentimes when we write letters and nobody answers us, it's because we are coming too late.
We're not showing. We don't have data to support whatever assertions we're making in our position.
All right, please. A round of applause for our panelists. That's a really great session. So before we take questions from the audience, or just ask one round of sort of a playful question. So maybe I'll start at you, BC. What sports would you compete in if you were in the Olympics?
Individual sports or team sports?
In anyone.
I think there's more glory in team sports. So it will be football.
Okay.
Well, I always participated in individual sport. My sport hasn't made it to the Olympics yet. I played squash at national level. I was tournament director for years. We have not been able to make it there. But if I had to play an individual sport, it would probably be tennis.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Guilherme, can you hear us? Is this still with us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so what sports would you compete in?
Well,
what sports would you compete in?
for me, I would say that my passion.
Yeah, you can go on.
By passion, I would say that collective sports would be for sure football. If I would have to do an individual sport, I would choose basically two. Tennis, because I absolutely love it, or horse riding, jumps in horses to honor my great uncle that once participated in the Olympics of horse riding, of jumps. So that would be my pick.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you to all those insightful answers. Before we call it an end to this panel, any questions from the audience? Also, please, if you're joining virtually, please drop tab there on the Zoom. Yes?
Good afternoon. My name is Chuka. I have actually learned a lot from this discourse today. The major thing we heard is data. You sit down, you pick up your phone, you know when Champions League will start, when it will end. In the next 4 years, World Cup. The next 4 years, we plan for World Cup. So all of us know when the World Cup will come. You start saving for that. You buy your ticket. Everything is clear there. Now, we're talking about data. Nigerians fail on that. seriously. My question now is, she has talked about data, he has talked about data. How do we, let me use the word evangelize, this serious matter about data in order for sports to move from its fledged as a business, from its fledgling state to the state of the Premier League and the likes of Champions League and Olympics and what have you? The Premier League will know August certain time. It will by June, if not because of the World Cup, it would have been May that it would end. But by June now, everything will end. So everything is timely. Why is Nigeria having such issues? And how can we evangelize the issue of data concerning our sports as a business?
I think, you know, if you want to eat an elephant, try very hard not to see the whole the data. The effort was there, you know. And they we've been looking for how some of that money will end up. I've been trying to figure it out. But do you know why? Because when we started the restructuring of the NLP, the first thing we did was to take away the match days from Saturdays and Sundays to Thursdays and Fridays. Why? I told the NLP, you cannot compete with La Liga, EPL, and all of those. But Arsenal play Manchester United on Saturday, then Shekaran Babes and United will be playing at the same time. Nobody's going to listen to you. So we went to Thursdays and Fridays. And people started coming to the stadiums. On Friday after prayers in the north, they straight from bus, they head for stadium. So up now, Fridays is already done. That's one thing. Second thing we did was set up the website and start putting results on the website. So NLO, if you go now, all matches that have been played since we did the last on the Twitter, then the NLO website. So what did that do for the Asians? They developed an underground black market gaming platform. Because they knew every Thursday and every Friday results will be out. So we effected change and provided an opening for somebody to leverage data. Give us data. Results are, what do you need for gambling? Is it not the square best? Is the results. So if we begin this process with people who have spent time putting the data points together and use them as pilots, it will be easy to translate that across other sports. So in answer to your question, Chika, it is to take a pilot and apply every single thing that is in your policy, in your implementation plan, in your strategy plan, and see how it works out. Because in science, they tell you, you develop the hypothesis, you test the hypothesis, and And so when you have tested it, you put it, make it becomes law. So I study chemistry until tomorrow. I still trying to figure out why avocados and hypothesis never made it beyond hypothesis. You understand? But that's what you do. We have a hypothesis right now that the NLO can do this. So when we test it with the NLO in terms of infrastructure, in terms of value chain, see how it works, and then translate it from the NLL, the FFL, and even below the NLO is 20,000 dollars. Below the NLO, that there are 20,000. So the ecosystem is there. In our natural data.
So for me, that's like one of the easiest for us to do. When we study, when we collect data, so most times, so the time I want to follow the Nigerian politics, I search everywhere I can find this. Even the NSF in the release on the website, I spend a good time on Facebook. I thought that's one of the problems we have. So I use time for some, and the collection, meditation of data that we have. That's like one of the ways we get this right. And of course, our administrators, you know that at 7 a.m., a personal response also. If you miss that bus, it's another 5 minutes before the next bus comes. That's what I'm looking for. And I believe that with time, it may not get there today, but the foundation to getting there, we must begin to lay as a from now. And that is what our committee is doing, because I say that they are doing fantastic work and what are the support much.
Yes, I have two questions. I want to thank the panelists have learned a lot, really, and thank the organizers. So, my name is Moyo, I'm a lawyer and also a business person and entrepreneur opportunities, firstly. So, I have two questions. Number one, what challenge or challenges, if any, do MDAs in charge of sports present to the potential investor? I'm asking this because I think I read a story some years back where someone was trying to invest in badminton, or like a badminton, a player, a young player in badminton, and then some agency came up and said, oh, you can't do that, you have to give us the money or something like that. I can't really remember the story. So that's my question. Like, what challenges do they present? Somebody wants to bring money into, let's say tennis. Like, I have a vision that, like, why can't Nigeria win US Open or Wimbledon? Why? Because the PR effect of that is so massive. But we often don't look at that. Just say, it's just one person. But if one person wins Wimbledon in Nigeria, the amount of brand energy that just goes around that is insane. And so there's value there. So the question is, what challenges could those MDAs present? That's number one. Number two, when you mentioned going to watch matches in the stadium, and you mentioned the example of that the club, in Lagos, I asked myself, okay, why haven't I gone to watch a match? And it dawned on me that I already envisaged some challenges. Okay, how do I get there? I probably can't park anywhere, and there are like louds everywhere. How do I enter? I don't even know how much the ticket is. What if it's hot? Like, I was just thinking of this question. These are why I wouldn't personally go to watch a match yet. So the question is like a chicken and egg thing. What do we fix first? Do we fix the quality of the pitches, the quality of the stadiums, and the whole experience, the production, or do we fix the consumption? Like, okay, get people to watch it first. If there are eyes there, then somebody will say, okay, people want to watch it, let me bring 1 billion there so that, what do we fix first? That thing, like, sort of like chicken and egg thing for me. So maybe you could shed more light on that. Thank you.
Way past that time.
I'll try to not to be politically correct. I think the answer to your first question is corruption. And then FDAs must begin to not do things in the ministry way. Begin to run this as if it were a business. When we change that perspective, things will change. And then to your second point, question, a again is data, right? So I know, for instance, and I'm not trying to hype or I've not been paid to hype any particular club, but this club we talked about, I once saw somewhere where I think they had a partnership where once you enter a promo code, you get a discount to go to sit down to watch your and then they have hospitality box as you have abroad. But you wouldn't find these things if you don't set for them. So we have them. But you just need to look for them and you find all of these things available for you to make up your mind where to go to. But of course, the investor wants a bankable product. Nobody's coming to watch a game played on sand. You want to watch a game on lush green grass. You want to watch a game where everybody will stop you to obtain you. You want to watch a game where your car is parked and you can go back and your car is intact. So of course, you must fix all of those things too. So it's, I mean, as you said, it's still an situation, but let's focus first on infrastructure, and then those other things will come, and that's again on infrastructure. She's doing a good job. Every stage there is now converted to a joint these days. It's the beginning of our problems, right? Why can't the state government even mandate certain persons, give land, free land, come and build a sports facility in this area, and not convert it to a car park. For the state government, it's better than a car park, where they can make money than to donate that land to somebody, you and I, to build a sporting infrastructure. Those are the kind of things we need to surmount to make these things more innovative.
Let me add to what you said. I'm always a little bit amused when people say, but the state government didn't do like this. Who went to them? Everything is intentional. The problem we have is that we think things will just happen. This government must do this, and this is not this is now because we are working together, so we are beginning to see some of the issues. Like I said here at the beginning, 10 years ago, people decided that this sport must be business, wrote a plan, and followed the plan. The first thing they recognized was that we had to have a policy. Now, I'm going to be brutal. I remember a couple of the stakeholder sessions. So I don't know the media is present here. The chairman of Swan Lagos came and said we were conducting an academic exercise. Today they can say a word. Policy from Canada, pick up policy from Japan, pick up policy from South Africa, from anywhere. The first thing you see in that place, all citizens must be encouraged to play sport. You think it's because they like you? No, they are creating a market. Because that's how they're going to measure the impact of policies on the economy. It is the human beings that play sport. So there's right there like they want you to be healthy. They want you to consume. So they're creating solutions. Right now, we are identifying a gap in infrastructure. That we are one stadium to 5 million. And the US says we want 200,000. To arrive at 1 million, we need 100 million. Yes. But how do you go there 100? So, you break it up. Yeah, like I said, they don't lose the biggest case. They don't have 400 25% of the have you noticed at the moment? So now I'm not going to they're the only league that made it to the as the result of achieving the region of their gas. It was intentional. Everything you do must be intentional. You must set So we must set at the door to bridge those gaps. There's a gap in capacity. Set up schools. If the government makes a law today, and every school that has 400 children must have a games master. Do you know how many games masters we need? 100,000. Do you know how many we are? Less than 10,000. Is that not a gap that you feel and make money? So what prevents me from setting up, going to Tibet and saying, Tibet, I want to set up a school to train games masters, 1 year training. It becomes technical allocation. Tibet, government is focusing on Tibet. So why can't somebody here go to and apply and say, once you see that law made, you can't apply to train games masters because the government has insisted. And that's why I keep saying, what we need the government for must be clearly defined. We don't need the government to build infrastructure. We need government to create the avenue for me to find money to build that infrastructure. I'm just giving one example. Say that there are 100,000 schools in this country. That's the importance of data. I know. So I tell the government, say that every school, if you are 100 students in the school, you must have games master. First, they say that every school must play sports 3 times a week. That's 40 million. Shirt, ball. That's 40 million boots, 40 million knicker, 40 million shirt, 40 million sports bag. Who is making them? Oh. Then I say, okay, it's not enough. No, then I say it's not enough. Say that every school that is 400. If the school is 700, 2 games master. If it's 400, 1 games master. So let's assume every school is 400. That's 100,000 games master. And you have less than 10,000. But you say you have an unemployment problem. So you dangle the carrot in front of young people. Sports games master. Like this. Find one person to bankroll. All of a sudden, eyeline. They'll come and meet you. They'll meet you for all sorts. But sit here and say that I want my athlete to go to the Olympics. I started off my conversation today saying, I don't really care about the Olympics. I don't really care about the World Cup. I don't really care. It's nice for us to go. It's soft power. But let's get the hard power done. The music industry, Amaka Ibrahim, they sorted out the back end. And we are enjoying it today. Can we sort out our back end? So that we can swear that when they go for Olympics, Nigerians, once upon a time we could swear that the 100 meters final will have 2 Nigerians. Carry people hand on chest and say, we will be in the quarterfinal. So please, we have this long and short of this is an intentional approach to reforming. Join the people who are doing it. I'm glad Amaka has been on this journey with us since this is an outcome of joining that journey. This conference, and that's why she can never host this conference, and I will not show up. Because she's been intentional since 2017. Contributing. You know what? Join journey. So many, Nehita, all of them. Nehita's company is a data company today, leveraging all of what I'm saying. So every one of us, join the journey. Don't stay back and wait for. See them since January. They are now joining us. So many firms. and open up, follow, begin to go to read many things. Please do join the journey. Talk to Amaka. She will, we're looking for people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you, everyone. Unfortunately, we'll have to end the panel now. We are 30 minutes beyond that time. And thank you. It's really interesting. A lot to learn, a lot to unpack. Thank you to Ms. Kechi, Mr. BC, and Mr. Guillem who have joined us this afternoon. We really appreciate you. Thank you for your insight and thank you for all you're doing for the sports ecosystem.
Let's give it to them. Let's give it to them. Let's give it to them. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, the panel. Please just hold on for your awards and photographs with our senior partner in sports. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Let's give them a round of applause again. Our online audience too. We appreciate you. Thank you for staying on. You're welcome. You're welcome. I hope you're enjoying yourself. Say hi if you're enjoying yourself. Oh, this is weak. Say hi if you're enjoying yourself. Have you added any knowledge to what you know? You can make money from sports. Your card is there, you lose. Okay? So, let's make it neutral.
Okay, so the winner is Tunde Fadipe.
Tunde Fadipe, please. Let's give him a round of applause. Tunde Fadipe. Oh my God. Okay. Let's give the Fadipe a round of applause now. Listen carefully to your name. You may win too.
So the winner is iHouse. iHouse, yeah.
iHouse has won for himself the Nigerian jersey, courtesy Agai Sports. Let's keep it happy. Stay glued to with us.
Okay.
Thank you so very much. We appreciate everybody. Now we'll be rolling very quickly to the last panel session. Let's give a round of applause to our panelists. Again, she will be coming back on the stage. This time our panel will be on sport policy. For the sport policy. The last session spoke more about investors, but there's something that drives investors and investment. It's a policy. And this is why we need to consider this aspect of this summit. Sport policy for the 21st century. 21st century sport. We need a lot of drivers. We need a lot of policy. And this is where we are going to people who are learned, who are knowledgeable, who are competent in this space, and who will help us, give us in-depth understanding of this space. Let me call on stage our amiable panelist, Telema Davis. Telema Davis is a knowledgeable policy person in sport. Will be giving us understanding of what the policy is like in 21st century. Again, in this panel is Dr. Ikena Nwosu. Can we give it to him now? Dr. Nwosu will be telling us more about policy. He's been in that space for quite some time. Thank you, Dr. Davis. And my one and only partner, she's been in the journey for quite some time in sport and in entertainment and tech law. But today we are doing sport. So she'll be talking all policy herself. Our Beverly Bakuba. Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause because these people are going to give us the real driver to this event. The event is majorly for sport and business people. And because policy drives the business, this is why you must listen carefully and enjoy every bit of what they are going to say. Once again, I want to invite the panelists, Precious, to come on to take on these gentlemen and women.
Hi everyone again. Thank you very much. We welcome to this panel. So this is the Sports Policy for the 21st Century panel. And our amiable panelists this afternoon are, I'll just read out their names again. Dr. Ikena Nwosu, it's a pleasure to meet you, sir. Dr. Ikena is the CEO of Morgates Limited. He's a lawyer, an ex-banker, a natural resources economist, an expert in investor relations, investment promotion, policy development, private sector development, and a successful operator in international logistics and trade facilitation. A round of applause for Dr. Ikena, please. And he has also consulted widely for the governments of several countries, including Canada, UK, USA, Guinea-Bissau, and for the Nigerian presidency and several state governments. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, sir. Our second panelist is Mr. Telema Davis. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. He's the He's the coordinating secretary for Sports Nigeria Limited, a private sector infrastructure intervention organization established to chart a new course in the development of the sports market. He's also the co-founder of Two Reports Limited, which is a market research and data advisory company. And his main goal is to deliver products to influence innovation and market-specific solutions for commercial growth and development. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And our last panelist is our very own Beverly Abakuba. And she's the head of sports, entertainment, and technology practice at Olisa Agbakuba Legal. She has over 15 years of work experience in regulatory compliance, governance, and legal industries. She's also the founder of Lagos Tigers Football Club, which is a youth academy established in 2012 for boys and girls between the ages of 3 and 17 years. She is very passionate about youth sports development, and the club has expanded to 3 training centers in Lagos, operating in Ikate, Oniru, and Alausa. Thank you very much, Beverly, for joining us. So we'll move on to the business of today. While preparing for this panel session, which was a great educational moment for me, I learned about the National Sport Industry Policy, which was approved last year in November and approved for 2022 to 2026. And the goal of this policy is to establish sports as a business and provide the much needed enabling environment for sports business development through the implementation of incentives for investment in the sports industry. And my first question will be to you, Dr. Ikena. I'd like to ask, this policy, how will the collaboration between the public and private sector, how is that collaboration necessary and essential for the success of the national sports policy? Collaboration between the public and private sector will be essential for the success of the national sports policy and its initiatives.
Thank you. It's fantastic to be here because this is one of the pioneer sports business summits we've ever had in the country. And I'm very happy that part of the entire process for redesigning the sports sector to be private sector led, you are part of that team. All of us here. So please, I think all of us give us a round of applause. The National Sports Industry Policy. I will come to at the end of the event, I'll come to the story about how all this started. But let me speak about the main issue. The policy is focused, like you said, to change sports from recreation to in the business. On the policy space, there are three things that we achieved. The first was the Federal Executive Council's decision reclassifying or recategorizing sports from recreation to business. That is one. The second was Nigeria's medium-term economic framework, the National Development Plan 2021 to 2025. For the first time in the history of this country, the sports sector was incorporated as a business sector, as a sector of the economy that contributes to GDP. Then the third policy initiative was the establishment of the National Sports Industry Policy. Kechuobi represented the NESG at the National Development Plan, and of course in driving the NSIP, in fact in the whole three. So, the essence, why I had to go through this was to say, look at the title of the policy, National Sports Industry Policy. Kechi did point out at the last panel that the former policy was based on participation. This is based on the collaboration aspect. It's not just a matter of critical, it's imperative. If it's not there, the whole policy is going to collapse. Because the policy is focused on private sector-led investments to drive the sector. Now, there is a global paradigm shift. In the first 10 years, I want to go to that background before I answer the question on collaboration because it dovetails into it. In the first 10 years of the 21st century, sports industry policy was not a public policy priority of most countries. Most countries across the world, Nigeria inclusive. It was only the advanced economies, Europe, North America, and then Asia was just beginning into it. But the credit for that paradigm shift will likely go to the United Nations Office for Sport for Peace and Development, which pushed the agenda of the role of sports in economic development and for promotion of peace. And that, with evidence-based advocacy, From 2010, many countries began to develop policies for the sports industry, seeing the power of sports as the number one enabler of every other economic sector. Many people have not seen it in this perspective. The sports industry, that's where the collaboration comes in, is the number one enabler of every economic sector in driving GDP. Because from 2010, most countries realized, just like what happened with the creative and entertainment sector, how increasingly sports is driving revenue streams in different sectors, employment streams in different sectors. So, sports creates content, so you're creating content. From the content, you've got TV rights, you've got broadcast rights, revenue is driving there. The manufacturers see the power of brand enhancement and sales by sponsorship or investment. So you find Atletico Madrid Stadium being sponsored by a Chinese group, the Wonder Group. Billions. You find Saudi Arabia, Vision 2030 is focused on using sports to drive it. Qatar is fighting to host the World Cup, buying PSG, looking for clubs. This collaboration I'm talking about now, private sector and government sovereign wealth funds, all stakeholders. You see sports driving telecommunication revenues. You see it driving social media revenues. You see sports. Why are banks putting up Standard Chartered on Liverpool? You see the banks are there because they see how it drives. The manufacturers, Coca-Cola, all of them want to, okay, even talking about banks. Staples Center, you know how much that Barclays Bank pays for it in a year? To have that name there. Emirates, the airline, the sports sector is driving aviation, it's driving logistics. So different stakeholders notice this ecosystem enhancement by sports. Even the medical sector, even education. I went for my younger sister's graduation at the University of Liverpool. She made a distinction in master's degree in law. I was very happy. I was Uga. So my sister has it. So she introduced me to three of her friends. I said, hey, this is my friend. He just finished an MBA. I said, MBA, in what area? Football administration. I pinched myself. This was like 15 years ago, 10 years ago. The next person, MBA, basketball administration. I said to you. And we are here shouting MBA, marketing, and so you see the way education is changing. You now have universities of sports. So, when you ask the question how collaboration is driving, how will it be done? It's simple. Even the process of establishing the national sports industry policy was collaborative. If it was not collaborative, it was going to fail. We had the public sector, federal, state, local. We had the private sector, domestic and international. We had diaspora. We had the social enterprise sector. We had the corporates who are huge in financing, sponsorship or otherwise. We had the educational sector, academia. We had the development partners, the USAID, the UNDPs. So all of them collaboratively came in. We did a lot by getting in a lot of governance documents. The AU Agenda 2063, the UN SDGs, and those are from the development partners. So with all that, we were able to come up with this document. And the implementation framework that is being proposed for it emphasizes that collaborative characteristic. So what you find is, in this room, the collaboration is evident. If you take a cross-sectional view of all the people in this room, it cuts from services to investors to banking, name it. So, the Ministry of Youth and Sport Development and the Federal Ministry of Finance, we are jointly, the two ministers are jointly appointed by the Federal Executive Council to chair a committee that will develop a set of incentives to promote the implementation of that policy. That shows the collaboration. And so they are saying that the incentives to be produced must cut across all the economic sectors who are going to join hands to implement the policy. So that underscores, I'm on that committee, and we're doing a lot of work, Kechi and Co. in the background, and the SITG team for many years. So we find that the level of enthusiasm is unparalleled. And let me end with saying, giving you a simple example, to the other point I'll talk about later. At the time we were doing the policy development, the American embassy visited the NESG secretary. Nkechi, you can attest to this. The head of economic desk flew in from Abuja to our office at Ikoyi. And she said, we have so many requests over the years coming into this country for sports investment, private sector, from America. Now, as the embassy, we are not in the position to recommend to any American investor to come into this country when the rules of the game are not set. You don't have a policy framework. You don't have policy drives legislation and programs, and of course investment. So we don't have the framework. So the moment we heard about it, we didn't invite her. The foreigners know more about the opportunities than we do. They heard it and they flew in without an appointment. So when they came in and they said this, they said they are happy and they're hoping to see the end of this because they have a lot of collaboration to support. So that's again the collaboration I'm talking about. So now it is over. We're waiting for a different implementation framework. What we are doing in this room is part of promoting that policy, particularly this session. So be dead sure, be sure that the conversation happening at the back, behind the scene, by different stakeholders, underscores the collaboration that will come out to the public, and this event is one of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do any of our panelists have anything to add to what Dr. Ikenna said?
I think something which Dr. Onusu has mentioned, which was also mentioned earlier in the previous panel by Ms. Nkechi, is the intentionality that went into the development of policy. And it's evident from the provisions that were imputed into the policy which was approved by the federal government last year in November. And it is critical for us to understand that look, if we want to make progress in a directional way, then everything that goes Ghanaian, but everything that we see, that output that we're seeing, is a result of deliberate actions that were taken, or that went into this output that we're seeing. The same way too, for sports, it's intentional, it's deliberate. The collaborations that we've had over the years were intentional as well, to identify every group of persons and individuals, organizations that participated from the pre-drafting stage to the post-drafting phase were all deliberate, because it was needful of us to realize, and something very interesting that happened while we were at the
people who see a gap in the industry. And so for me, the areas of policy in sport that interest me, dispute resolution. It pains me to hear of so many grievances against athletes, against people in sports business, and they have nothing new to get that access to justice. Why? Because I don't want to focus too much on football, because I know there's people that do basketball here, I know there's people in radio here, but the truth of the matter is, if you are an athlete, a sports person, today in Nigeria as it stands, let's be very honest, a lot of the federations don't have functional disciplinary bodies. They do not. So you end up being at the mercy of the courts. And I'm going to say it again. The courts are not placed to resolve sports disputes. They do not know the intricacies, the idiosyncrasies of how sport works. And that's precisely why people like us got together in the 80s to set up the Court of Arbitration for Sports. You know, a lot of these bodies that we see now, a lot of these institutions really came about people like us sitting down. What is missing in the industry? There's no Court of Arbitration for Sports. And that's how it came about. Sometimes I think we forget that it just takes a small group of people to create a big wave. You know, we take institutions for granted. We think, oh, it took governments. No, the Court of Arbitration for Sport is not bound by any government. Yes, they use Swiss law, but it's an international neutral body. So dispute resolution in sport is very critical to me. You know, I'm looking seriously at how to move. How do we get that movement for some kind of mediation body, arbitration body in Nigeria? But before we have a body, how can we sensitize the stakeholders that, okay, if you have a grievance, this is one way you can resolve it. You can resolve it by going into mediation. Your contracts between clubs and players, do they have the right clauses in them? Another area of policy that interests me is youth development. It will interest you to know that we don't have consistent policies as far as the way we develop the youth. You training your youth in one way, which could be unethical, that's why you have so much discrepancy in output, you know. So youth policy, how can we firm up and get a universal policy when it comes to the youth? Also, let's look at things like construction. Let's look at private investments. These are all various areas that really matter to me. And also education. Every other person I speak to now tells me they're going to Spain to do a sports business management course. And then you ask yourself, is it that we don't have facilitators in Nigeria that can teach sports business management? You see, policy is driven by people like you and me, and eventually those pain points will be resolved like people like you and me. So if we're happy seeing people, so I mean, anybody can wake up, of course not anybody, but obviously you train yourself, you empower yourself, you get the right qualifications, and there's nothing stopping people from saying, I'm going to solve this particular pain point. And then you create a movement. So with sports business education, what is happening with that? Are we going to continue to see waves of people leaving the shores of Nigeria to train in Spain? I have nothing against Spain. I think they're doing a fantastic job. And I'm sure at some point Spain realized, wow, we're getting people taking interest. And before you realize it, Real Madrid has its own sports business school. ISDE has its own sports business school. What is stopping us here? We have the NIS, but you might agree with me that there can be more. So policy for me is just a fancy way of saying what are the critical areas in the industry that we can resolve, and it's resolved by creating that wave of interest. It's simply a few people coming together on a consistent basis to change the narrative, and we are enough to do that. This room may look small, but it is not small if we all work consistently together over a period of time. So that's what I wanted to.
Thank you very much, Beverly. Thank you to all our panelists. And Beverly, I'll take this back to you. I know Ms. Kechi spoke about the NLO when she spoke, and I know you own a football club as well, the Lagos Tiger Football Club. So when it comes to grassroots sports development and youth sports development, how is the national sports industry policy? How do the initiatives proposed by that policy seek to encourage investment in grassroots initiatives and development in sports in the grassroots?
Okay, so I was on the sports as a tool for peace building and youth development. So when we were working together to draft the policy, there were streams. You see, everything has to have order. You have to bring order into this industry. So sport is very broad. You can't just talk about sport in a vacuum. So I was on that particular thematic area, which is sport as a tool for peace building and youth development. So just like Dr. Ikena said, we looked across the globe We looked at the different practices in different areas. Canada was one, the UK was one, and then within Africa as well, South Africa. We looked at places that were certainly more advanced than we are. And we began to say, okay, how do we pick the best? Because it's not a cut and paste approach where you take a policy that will be totally difficult to implement here. That's not what it's about either. It has to be tailored to suit this environment. And again, we can't achieve that without collaboration. So the main premise of the sports policy was to identify all the cross-sectional areas that can come together to work. Finance is for the first time coming to work actively within sport, because truth be told, grassroots academies, what do they need? They need finances to be able to do a lot of things. You know, yes, sponsorship is still very important, but we need to create a sustainable approach to sport. You know, sport has to be sustainable. If we constantly keep looking for handouts, you're not building a sustainable industry. You know, I mean, I'm fortunate to be able to speak from experience. I have a grassroots club of my own, and what do? I use several models. I use the sponsorship model, but you know, with sponsorship, it's value for value. Sponsorship is not charity. It's not handouts. What are they getting in return? If you're giving me jerseys, if you're giving me cash, what is my club going to offer in return? Then that's when we all have to switch on our thinking caps. You become more visible. You talk about social media. One thing I learned when I was at the World Football Summit last year was African clubs, academies are not utilizing social media as much as they should. It's about visibility. Visibility translates into the data that we need to drive more funds in, right? How are we utilizing new social media channels like TikTok? How many clubs here use TikTok? The Gen X, sorry, no, I'm Gen X, so it's not me. Gen Z, and then the ones before Gen Z, they're all on TikTok. How do you drive the interest from the Gen Zs into your club? How do you make your clubs more attractive? In, you know, it's not, you see, one thing we need to change is a sort of entitlement mentality that, well, the clubs are there, so it's not our fault if they're not, it's not our fault if they're not coming. No, we need to have that business approach when it comes to clubs. You know, even if your club is a charity, you still have to give them value. What are you offering? Fan engagement is another thing that we talked about, you know, at this other summit, and I'm happy that we're able to have that conversation here. How are we tantalizing the fans? How are we getting the fans to tune in? Let's not even talk about that broken link in the media and broadcasting chain. How do you connect the fans to your club in every way? We're talking about a 360 degrees approach, you know, whether it's TikTok or whether it's quizzes, engagements. There has to be more than just expecting people to come and pay 500 Naira tickets, watch a match and go. Those days are over. They're over. So we here in Nigeria, in Africa, we need to change our approach when it comes to sports. We need to become so business-minded. Truly, sport is, yes, sport for me is an industry, but it's a business industry as much as oil and gas, as much as aviation, and none of those industries are sitting crying, waiting for handouts. They're reinventing, re-strategizing their models, their business models, and the same thing has to be said for grassroots academies. I mean, to be honest, I as a grassroots academy owner, I have seen the evolution. Grassroots academies now, they are trying their best to use social media, but a lot more can be done. So, I mean, I think collaboration is key. No one can be king of a castle and that castle is empty, right? It's better to be a king of even 5 than just sitting on your own. So I think the focus is collaboration, digitalization, attracting a younger generation of fans, you know, media and broadcasting. YouTube is still there. We're not using YouTube as much as we should. You know, so there's so much that we're not doing. So the thing is, let's not complain. Let's do our best to utilize all the channels that we have access to and hopefully things will begin to pick up, I think.
Thank you very much, Beverly. And Mr. Telema, I know recently there's a lot of sport talks about athletes safeguarding the general well-being, physically and mentally of athletes. And we've even had notable athletes and Simone Biles drop out of international competitions to focus on health. What do you think we can do on a national level to cure the physical and mental well and still maintain the integrity and competitiveness of sports?
Okay, so thankfully, the policy addresses every issue related to athletes, to start with, as a premise. Secondly, is the fact that, look, we have federations that are responsible for the development aspects of sports. And we have the professional aspect of sports, which when we start to talk about leagues, the league component. And it is really important for us to pay attention to that professional side. Look, you mentioned the likes of Naomi Osaka right now, and look, she's a professional athlete. She's not going to start running to a federation to ask for handouts or to ask for help in her case. She has revenue streams that has opened up to her because of her professional play as a tennis player. So it's the same way that we want to have that channel open up here, where athletes can be bankrolled based on their professional participation in sports. Now, the federation's responsibility will be to be focused or channeled towards amateur sports, the development aspect. When you talk about the grassroots, schools, community, that aspect, yes, the federation can pay attention to that, and help to create a pool where, for any instance where athletes at that level, can easily access such pool of funds or such pool of resources, that gets to address or accommodate whatever concerns they have. But for the professional aspects, look, we need to open up that channel. We need to be deliberate about creating that premise, that platform, where the athletes can have their concerns addressed from a professional point of view. Because it's no longer business as usual. It's no longer business as usual. We can't continue to do the same thing and expect a different result. We need to change rearrange the entire theater school and make it more professional, more business focused and business driven, so that the athletes can know that, look, they have something that they are invested in, because the investments are coming in, the entire resources is available to them, and as such, when they have, the opportunities are far-reaching. They're actually beyond what we are even seeing right now, because you want a situation where, for instance, we mentioned netball earlier, where you have a netball league, and you have players, for instance, who are earning, say an athlete who is earning nothing less than 500,000 a month. Now, you won't expect that athlete to start going begging for handouts from people to come and address their own concerns. No. And aside that, if the athlete is able to develop that star power, he or she is able to attract endorsement deals from brands that will have that athlete as the face of their products or services. And they pull beyond that 500,000 naira they're actually earning a month. They have people who are providing ancillary services to them, managers, PR experts, media persons, and they are able to cater to their needs based on the services that is being delivered to them. Now, in this way, we are able to address totally, entirely, across the value chain, what the athlete needs and how the athlete needs to have that concerns addressed. Because it's no longer business as usual. It can't be handouts any longer. It has to be done from a professional point of view, and business is the way to go about it.
Great.
I'd like to add something to what Telema has said. Because it is the athletes that create content. participation part creates the content. But who enables the content are the businessmen. So let me tell that story. How we came to this those documents you're talking about today. That woman sitting there, Nkechi Obi, a very good professional that I respect. Was it in 2016? I was on the board of the Nigeria American Chamber of Commerce, so we had an event. So the Director General then, 2015, was a friend of hers, and they were sitting next to each other, bantering. And I asked her, who is this lady who is disturbing my conference? He now introduced her to me and said she's into sports, blah, blah, blah. We got talking, mentioned some interesting aspects of business of sports, and I said, okay, let's have lunch and we'll discuss. It was a working day, so we fixed lunch for Sunday. I said I'll come for an hour. So I was there 11 o'clock. Was it 2? I ate lunch. I ate after lunch. I ate dinner. And I was going to do nightcap when I saw my watch. It was almost past 10. Why was I sitting there? It's not the food or the champagne. I said I would do 1 hour. So Nkechi started rolling out for me the economic impact of sports. How much we buy and sell footballers? How much we buy and sell basketballers? Baseballers? What are the revenue streams in merchandising? People make footballs, netballs, basketballs, t-shirts, boots, shin guards, jerseys, the grass, the goalposts, the nets, the entire value chain. The marketers, those that do the MBA, economic policy is not. Is a policy commission called THECS. TH for tourism and hospitality. E and C, entertainment and creative, and S, sports as a business. And I was put as a facilitator. Go and find an expert to drive tourism and hospitality, an expert to drive entertainment and creative, and an expert to drive sports. So when I started this conversation with her about sports, it's now for me to go back and convince the CEO that sports is an economic sector and not kicking around of it. I went back, I did the homework, I spoke with him. He gave us a platform. The economic summit was going to happen in October. On the 31st of August, he said, come into the room, select people, make a presentation. I want to see the economic impact of sports. I will spend 15 minutes. After 2 hours, by the time we did the presentation, we were given a slot for the next economic summit, which was 3 months down the line. It was not in the plan. The technical committee had to convince themselves to change. That is the beginning of the story. And at the end of the day, when we looked at the entire ecosystem and looked at the failure of many athletes to rise because there is no policy in place, no governance system in place that will push private sector investment in talent development. value chain. We now say to ourselves, as an outcome of this economic summit, where we talk about sports industry, the number one thing we need to do is to establish a national sports industry policy. That is the story of this document. And NESG started a conversation with the Minister of Sports, Sunday Direct, bought into the idea. We started working together, did all the consultations across 10 ministries, interministerial technical sections, because so many ministries have roles to play, the collaboration I'm talking about, different sectors. We use the more model of stakeholder engagement at NESG, and we built all the stakeholder groups, including labor. A lot of people are still doing unions. Brought everybody in, set up a 70-man committee to draft this policy, co-chaired by the public sector and the private sector. And then came out with the document, got validated, got recommended by the Federal Attorney General's office, moved to the Federal Executive Council, approved, and we are here today discussing it. So, if you do a census, you find that there are many athletes in the country. When people hear you talking about the athletes, go back to the African Nigerian blood because our mother is from Haiti, right? A lot of Nigerians. So that's a story for another day. But there are so many athletes in this country, footballers and whatever, who have missed opportunities. If you check out most of the clubs in the Premier League, none of them is owned by sponsors. They are all businessmen. We asked Aliko Dangote, the minister, and myself asked him, why don't you want to buy a Nigerian club? You want to buy Arsenal? The man gave a correct answer. But if I buy Arsenal, properly, they have governance codes, sports governance codes, they have code of application for sports. Are you seeing the entire structure? So if anybody wants to invest in my investment, I know where to go and get justice. In this country, there was nothing. This was when we started the policy development process. That changed us. If we were sleeping only 5 hours a night, we started sleeping 3 hours. So we have to get that government out and get investors like him to come in. Now, banks are looking at that policy. Insurance companies are looking at that policy. Real estate owners, NLO has how many clubs? 400. Imagine you buying 100 of the clubs or investing in over 100 of the clubs. You become one of the largest real estate owners in this country. That is sports driving real estate. Put out all the 5,000 bottles of Ever water. Memorabilia will be sold. You see the value chain. So when the banks look at the different revenue streams, they will be jumping, competing among themselves to finance you. And the only reason they will do it is because there is a policy. Because if there is no policy, they have nothing to fall back on. To say, government, you made this policy, you want to drive private sector investment. And the moment the banks begin to listen, that sector has been redirected. It is happening now in sports. Quietly. So part of the reason we are in this room is that you are part of the making of that soup. You see the opportunities before it becomes more available to the public. And you decide what part of the value chain you want to plug into. Whether it's actually developed, there are so many athletes, footballers, name it, at the bottom rung. Has anybody read Osimhen's story? Victor Osimhen. From the beginning, all the rejection, to where he is today. The policy was not in place, but it's one of the luckiest few. So when you talk athlete development, this policy focuses on it. And there's a global paradigm shift now in sports industry policies. There are three things that the policies are now to drive. The UK is leading that initiative. They've done a 10-year strategic plan, 2021 to 2030. Nigeria is also now one of those leading that paradigm. And let me tell you, the National Sports Industry Policy is a world-class policy document. It is world-class. Say that again. In Africa, yeah. Give us a round of applause for that. It's the first in Africa. That I know. So, it's all the relevant governance documents were put together. And the reason why it is world class, we did not rush it. Not the way government wants to rush a policy, 2 months, 3 months. It took 4 years to move it from conception to approval. So, it is world class. So the financial industry, the moment they focus on the sector, like they're focusing on this policy now, the conversation has changed. A number of them are now beginning to think of establishing sports industry desks. Why? They are seeing the new revenue streams. And all banks want to see is revenue streams. And once revenue streams are guaranteed, the financing will come. So go and decide what part of the value chain you want to plug into, because this sector is going to
Thank
erupt.
you very much, sir. Thank you, Beverly. 1 minute.
Difficult it is to convince people to take up insurance. All it takes is for grassroots clubs, federations to make it absolutely compulsory, and sports insurance takes off like wildfire. I mean, I'll give you a contrast in the entertainment industry, because I'm lucky enough to work in that industry. What is driving all the Netflix movies, Nigerians rushing to Amazon Prime? They cannot play in that area unless they have something called errors and omissions insurance. Netflix will not touch you without insurance. So guess what? Entertainment insurance has gone through the roof. Suddenly, my insurance, like, wow, you're constantly messaging me for insurance to make films. It was not done in the old days. So can you imagine if this is applied to grassroots? You have a basketball team that you work with. Getting insurance is critical for their welfare. Because if anything happens to those kids whilst they play, they get injured, they break a leg or whatever, who will pay? We don't think about these things. But the minute insurance is in place, you can sleep. Because the insurance will kick in. And I can speak to this because I have insurance. And it has helped me because one of my kids broke their hand. And guess what? The parent was shocked that I had insurance. To show you how low the bar is in Nigeria. The bar was so low, she wasn't even expecting that I had insurance. So the shock on her face, when not only did I say I had insurance, the insurance were willing to pay for her child's broken arm. She was too delighted, too happy. That is how you build loyalty. That is how you build trust, integrity in the system. So that is another policy area. Insurance is as basic as that. Most of us here, if you have a team here, anybody here has a team, is your team insured? Is your team insured? If your team is not insured, you're not doing something properly. So please, we need to put not just our money where our our mouth is. If we are honest about building this industry, we need to be honest and ask ourselves, are we doing the best we can with the little we have? If you're an educator, a consultant, a club owner, and you don't have insurance and you're in sports, you're being dishonest. I'm sorry to say, you're being very dishonest. So let's try to collaborate, please. And some of these structures are already there. We just need to plug into it. You know, you can even decide you want to be a sports insurance agent. You can. I took my exams. I can sell insurance now. You see, opportunity comes to those who prepare ahead. It doesn't come to those who are just waiting for the opportunity to land in their lap. It comes to those who prepare ahead and say, oh, this market is moving in this direction because like Dr. Ikenna said, like Tenema said, things are already happening. If you've not read the National Sports Insurance Policy, National Sports Industry Policy, please, you need to go and read it. If you read it, you know where you need to play. You come from Port Harcourt. You know what's missing there. You read that policy, immediately you know where you can start playing. So the whole idea of this event is to open your eyes to areas where you can begin to play. You know, no one is going to spoon feed you and say, oh, go there. No, you have to see the opportunity based on the policy document and based on the gaps that exist as it is. So,
thank you very much. We'll just take one question. We have time for just one question from the audience. Okay. Sorry, we'll just take a question. Do you have a question?
Thank you. Good day, everybody. It's about what Mrs. Beverly talked about. My question you may see for district resolution for sport. Do we need a special court created by the government group, or can sports authorities set up or sports
That's a very good question. It's private. Exactly. It can. No, it can. No, you don't. To be honest, it can work. Okay, for instance, my background is sports. I've already told you I play in 3 areas: sport, entertainment, and tech. So from a sports perspective, I'm already handling disputes as it is. I've handled disputes at the NFF mostly because that it seems to be where most of the activity is taking place. So I've handled disciplinaries, acted as counsel on behalf of clients. But the truth of the matter is there's private mechanisms for dispute resolution. For instance, mediation. Mediation is growing at alarming is the wrong word, at a really exponential rate. Because the truth of the matter is arbitration is also expensive. I'm telling you, Court of Arbitration for Sports in Switzerland, you're not going to pay anything less than 10,000 Swiss francs or dollars. You're nothing less than that. So now the question is, how do we bring that here locally? So one of the ways, and this is something that OAL is working on, is how can we set up something internally as a law firm that the general public can buy into. And that is effectively sports mediation. So provided the contracts you are signing have a clause. So for instance, if you're a club owner and you draft, say, an agreement with your player, there's always going to be a clause that says if there's any disagreement between both parties, you can seek mediation in the first instance. It is only when that breaks down, you proceed to the National Industrial Court, which is the court for employment. It doesn't matter whether you're in medical industry, sports industry, banking, that is the court for employment in Nigeria. So mediation is now giving us that much needed direction that we didn't have before. So there's something called sports mediation. And I, in my personal capacity, I am a FIFA mediation professional. I was appointed last year. Even FIFA themselves realized that, this arbitration, it's still going to sideline a great part of the world, because how many can afford arbitration? That's why all the UK lawyers are growing fat, because of they're making so much money. But how many clubs, athletes can pay £10,000, say, I don't know, per week? Because they're charging you per hour, per second. So FIFA also acknowledged that, you know what, we need to really show that we're transparent. So they created this mediation panel out of their football tribunal. So what do? They now allow athletes from any part of the world, clubs, to use those mediation services completely free of charge. Completely free. If you don't know, please know it now. Mediation at FIFA level, completely free if you're a club. I'm sure many people here don't even know. It's free, as long as you fall under your registered federation. If you're recognized, you have to be recognized, you have to be registered. Once you're registered and in the system, if you have any dispute, you are free to proceed to FIFA for their mediation. Just pick me on that one.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Beverly. Thank you to all our panelists. Thank you for your insights, for speaking to us this afternoon. And this is the end of the panel session for this afternoon. Please, a round of applause for them once again. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. It's a picture time. Let's have pictures now of the panels with the moderator. Yes, while that is ongoing, I have a short comment from a sport person here. Please come, just 1 minute.
Thank you very much. I was one of them, the 15 session. While this was going on, all I noticed was that mindset of is actually twisted. The typical Nigerian is always looking at sports as a no-no for gutter, for area boys, and what have you. We need events like this to start changing the mindset of people. I still discussed one on the outside, and the mindset is they're going to, is a waste of time and what have you. It's not a waste of time. There was someone that discussed something with me. Nuga happened in Unilag. A sponsor wanted to come in, and he was asking, so how are we going to make money? You have about 20,000 people coming for an event. You're asking, how are you going to make money? A bank, for that matter, that wanted to sponsor.
Thank you.
I don't understand. We need a lot of changing of mindset. So we pray that such events, every month we should have these events, even in a small scale.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so very much for that contribution from him. Our pictures now. Okay, our presentation now. Let me quickly call this back. They've succeeded in doing justice to policy. Our policy has, and we always drive our sports. Mr. Telema Davis. Dr. Ikina, our amiable moderator. Adeyemi she has performed wonderfully well. Thank you so very much, everybody, for coming. I hope you enjoyed the sessions, the panels, and the panelists. I hope we are going to come earlier tomorrow. I hope, let's even say hi to our online participants. Say hi to them. They have been wonderful. They've been patient all along with us. So I do believe that Beverly will come and talk to us in a few minutes while she brings today to a close. Okay. Before everything now, let me quickly tell premium ticket holders, you have a lunch. Everyone, please, can you attend to? Just stay back on the other side, and you can pick up your lunch and enjoy your lunch. So, having all of this done and expecting more to be done tomorrow, we have books there on sport that may increase.
Good afternoon, everyone. We want to appreciate you for your patience, for your attentiveness during the section. We'll be having a master class immediately. So for those that paid for the master class, they should please wait. The master class we hold immediately. So thank you. Your lunch you can have while the class is ongoing, so as not to take too much of your time. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming, and hoping to see you tomorrow early enough so that we can have a big time together. From all of us, OAL, we say thank you. Do enjoy your trip back home. Expecting you tomorrow. For those who have not had their photos, there's still red carpet, and you can have your photographs down there and all of that. There's avenue for networking. You can meet one-on-one, exchange cards. That is the essence of this summit. Bring stakeholders in sport together. Let's meet ourselves, let's know ourselves, let's participate, or let's do business of sport together. Please, let's quickly move to the right for premium tickets taking masterclass. Let's quickly come forward here. Tomorrow we have more gifts for everybody, so come early and let's dip. Bring your card for those who failed to bring their cards today, and who wants to write their name on papers, and you can have it on paper.
One more.